Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me in a segment we call Windy City Sports Podcast. My name is Mike Hansa. Again, I have Tommy Doherty with me. Tommy, how we doing?
Oh, Michael! Welcome back, huh?
I mean, 8 months later, here we are.
First of all, thanks for having me back. Do you realize in the time that we did the last podcast, if you were a newly pregnant woman, you have now had the child.
You've had
since it. So congratulations to all you new mothers
to all
out
the
there.
to the newborns out there. We appreciate you. Tommy, let's talk some sports, huh?
Let's do it, man. I'm ready.
All right. So when we left off last time, we were talking about the Chicago Bears, where they were going to go. We knew Trestman was going to be gone. We didn't know names like Cutler, Marshall, what was going on with them. Just a little fill-in. We know John Fox is our new head coach. We got Jay Cutler still under contract. Traded Brandon Marshall. Tommy, give me your input on what you're thinking of the Chicago Bears of their offseason so far.
Well, you know, the context of an extra 8 months is great to go back and look at what we actually said. And I believe we said that we thought Trestman might get fired and that Emery would probably stay.
We said that, yeah, that was my opinion. I was in Emery's corner.
And we were both wrong because they both were gone pretty much immediately. So,
right away.
It ended up, I think it was the right call. You can't play football that horribly, back-to-back 50-point blowouts. But I digress. It's 2015. It's a new year. So what exactly did they do? They hired John Fox.
Correct.
John Fox was let go by the Denver Broncos.
It was a guy we didn't think was going to be there, correct?
Definitely not. No, if you had told us at the time we last spoke that John Fox was going to be on the market, I would have assumed something terrible had happened. But turns out that was not the case.
It's funny, too, because our offensive coordinator is
Adam
Gase. And in our last podcast, we were talking about him as a potential head coaching spot. I believe you mentioned that the Bears might land with. Instead, we get his head coach from Denver and John Fox, and then we still get Adam Gase. It's kind of like a 2-for-1 special deal. You almost swing in there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, here's the main difference between the new Bears coaches and the old coaches. So with the old coaching staff, Phil Emery was taking a risk no matter what.
He was.
He hired Mark Trestman, who had never been an NFL head coach, had really never been a coordinator of any kind.
Nope.
Outside of the Canadian Football League. But he was chosen to turn Cutler around, and we'll talk about him later too.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Then he also hired a slew of assistants who were also Rands, such as Mel Tucker, who's never coached a good defense
Ever.
Maybe ever. I don't even know if he can coach a good defense in Pee Wee football. But I'm probably being a little harsh there. This coaching staff, however, extremely experienced. John Fox, known for turning franchises around.
He's led 2 teams to 2 Super Bowls.
Correct. And Vic Fangio did great things with San Francisco.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned earlier, Adam Gase, highly respected offensive coach, has worked with one of the great quarterbacks of all time, with Peyton Manning. Manning trusted him. He chose Denver partially because he believed so strongly in Gase's prowess, when he was the quarterback coach and then eventually the offensive coordinator. Yep. So complete 180 in terms of coaches that you can trust and coaches that have a strong, consistent vision.
It was the right move, is what it was. Like you said, when we had Emery hiring Trestman and all that whole other mess of a staff, like you said, these were guys we didn't know what their capabilities were. Like you said, they didn't really have a resume to put on their background. They really didn't, for the NFL at least. But like you said, we have our new general manager,
Ryan Pace.
Yep, who's done a great job. Like you said, bringing in John Fox, Fangio, Adam Gase, And I mean, even dumping Brandon Marshall, getting rid of him. I like the signing of Eddie Royal. There's a lot of strong things that he's done compared to Emery already, where I see the Bears going in the right direction.
Right, and I think the one thing that Emery wasn't very good at was just finding football players. He spent a lot of time drafting guys that were considered to be, outside of the box picks, or really just doing things that weren't directly tied to football. And so far, this regime, with the exception of maybe Kevin White in the first round, has done stuff that is football sound and football fundamentally based.
Football liked, especially by fans.
Right.
Too.
So we trust the vision. I think we've established that. The one thing that will concern this 2015 Bears team is actually being able to execute the vision.
Mm-hmm.
They're transitioning to a 3-4 defense. They've never run that before. And frankly, they don't have more than one or two players that even fit the scheme right now.
Can you teach an old dog new tricks? I'm getting that with Jared Allen. Do you think Jared Allen has the capability of going back into that linebacker position?
To be honest, I do not. I don't think that he's capable of it. To play 3-4 outside linebacker, you have to be able to be very nimble while also being freakishly big. Which he is, but at his age, he's in his mid-30s. If you want to get specific, he's 34. So, yeah, I mean, I question whether or not that's a great fit for him. That being said, he's experienced, so maybe he could play a role similar to DeMarcus Ware in the 3-4 in Dallas, where he really wasn't going into pass coverage. On the flip side, Pernell McPhee, the new guy from Baltimore, was very effective, was one of the top-rated defensive ends in 3-4 by DVOA, a statistic from Pro Football Focus. So that's encouraging. But in general, it's going to be a transition process for that entire front seven this whole year.
Well, even in preseason so far, we look at people, you see the Bears 2-0, but our first team hasn't... I think we've been outscored, 14-0 by first team so far?
Yeah, I mean, that first game against the Dolphins, they didn't look good at all for the first two drives.
I was at that game.
Yeah.
Nothing good came out of it, especially the defense. You can see that was going to be a big question going into this year is can the Bears, who have always been a defensive team first, before they were offense, if they could actually get back to their old ways, but still, it looks like they got a long way to go.
Sure. And, I mean, on the positive side of things, Kyle Fuller's definitely a keeper.
He's a guy you want to build your defense around.
Yeah,
almost.
and he's a guy that would fit any scheme.
Of course.
Obviously, with Brock Vereen and with Antrell Roll back there, it's a little bit better than it has been in years past, which isn't saying much because it's been, frankly, terrible. But I trust those guys a little bit more than I would trust a Chris Conte.
Any day.
Yeah. And really, in the 3-4, safety's responsibilities aren't quite as arduous as they were in the old scheme. So, we'll see what happens there. Obviously, we can trust Fuller on the right side of the field. And basically, what I'm trying to say with this whole thing is I trust where this is going long term. But right now, it's going to be rough because personnel-wise, it's a bad fit.
Exactly. Well, the Bears are predicted to finish last from USA Today. Is that a statement that you would agree with? Do you see the Bears, like the last record out of everybody, not just the division? They literally have them last. I believe they only gave them... They're 4-12 on the year is what they predicted them to be.
If you want to look at that definitively, I would say offensively they're probably too talented to go 2-14, barring a catastrophic amount of injuries. They still have Matt Forte, who's one of the game's better all-around running backs.
Martellus Bennett is a returning all-pro tight end.
Right. They've got Alshon Jeffrey, who's a very good wide receiver. Royal, I'm not as high in him as other people, but he has a good relationship with Jay Cutler. And let's just address that issue. I mean, this is pretty much Cutler's last shot with the Bears. They knew they were going to keep him this year. Phil Emery's, his last moves was giving him a giant contract extension. So they were pretty much locked in him through this year. And there's really no guarantees after that. So I think the offense will be all right enough to win them a few games. I think in general, their schedule softens up towards the end of the year. I could see them getting a few cheaper wins. I don't see them going 3-13, but I also wouldn't be penciling them in as a wild card team in the NFC. What do you think about that?
Right. Well, like you said, when you look at other teams around the league, you got Jacksonville Jaguars. I couldn't even tell you more than two names on their lineup besides who's their quarterback? I don't even.
Blake Bortles, pride of
UCF.
Central Florida.
Exactly, but the talent's there. Even with the veterans, there really is no big new names. We have Kevin White, but he's not a guy that we want to come in and expect him to have a big impact on the game, compared to where you're taking a quarterback as a first round pick. We have these veteran players who have been there in the league who have done it before. Granted, they're getting old, but like you said, with the job that Gase has done with our coaching staff, with the players that we do have, which we do have some players, like you said, in Matt Forte, Martellus Bennett, even Jay Cutler, he's by far no means one of the top 5 worst quarterbacks. I'll give him that. He's not in the top 5 worst.
Right.
So do I think they're more capable than 4 wins? Yes, I do. I can see him at least pulling 6 or 7 wins. Is that the best thing that we need? Do we need them? Are you kind of hoping for a worse record to maybe higher draft pick? What do you?
I think if you're a Bears fan and you're looking for something out of the season, you hope that you see a team that gets better every week.
Yep.
You see guys like Kyle Fuller, guys like Alshon Jeffrey, obviously
who will continue to grow.
Ideally, Pernell McPhee is a guy who makes a big impact in a larger role, and maybe you get some special teams touchdowns out of it in key games. And I don't know what you can expect from Cutler other than the same old stuff. So then I guess in that case he'll be gone after this year, and you won't have to worry about him anymore. But
what if he does have a good year? Where do you go from? Do you still give him the benefit of the doubt?
10 years into his career, I don't think he's going to be any better than he has shown at his peaks. Jay Cutler is an inconsistent QB.
He's not going to pull a Richard Patton and win the MVP in his 40s.
I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
I don't see a late Rich Gannon turn.
Rich Gannon, thank you.
Yeah, for Jay Cutler, but I guess with Adam Gase, you hope that the guy might be able to get a little more out of him than you have in years past. The thing with Jay Cutler is that he still just makes those throws that makes everyone scratch their heads and wonder what the heck he saw in that. But I don't know if that will ever go away, basically. So don't hold your breath.
I won't. I won't. I have some high hopes. We are 2-0 in the preseason, even though that means absolutely nothing.
Keep this in mind, Mike. Opening weeks of the schedule, you've got Green Bay, Arizona, at Seattle, then a layup at home against Oakland, and then at Kansas City. So that's going to be a rough stretch.
That is very rough. Those are all playoff teams that you just named besides Oakland. Yeah. And even I think Oakland has some capability. They're a dark horse in this year with their young talent. You got to look at with Derek Carr. They just drafted, obviously, new wide receiver out of Alabama.
Amari Cooper. The weapons, they have some weapons that are there, especially on defense, too. Khalil Mack, he's going to be a stud. For more on that, check out the Bay Area podcast. I highly recommend it.
Well, that's what we have on the Bears so far for this season. We wish them the best of luck. We believe, like we said, in what they're doing. You ready to bear down?
Let's do it. Let's see what happens.
But before we stop the NFL, let's go on and talk about other teams around the league.
Let's stay in the NFL, then.
Let's stay in the NFL. First things first. Did Dez catch it?
Ooh, I thought he did. I really did. What a turn of events for all three of those teams, by the way.
You had, who we talked about in the last podcast, it's just weird. Dez, if he catches it, who knows? The Packers aren't there. And then the Packers, if that doesn't happen with Seattle.
Right. I mean, you could make the argument that the Cowboys could have been in the Super Bowl. And you definitely could have made that argument for Green Bay. And both of those teams had unbelievable turns of events. I mean, with Dallas, it was really just one play that is, a poor rule in the NFL that has changed a couple of times.
They changed it again this offseason.
Yep.
Now.
So that is unfortunate for them. They had a great season. And then, as Bears fans, we were pleased to see Green Bay kind of blow it at the end there. But, man, was that interesting. They really were dominating.
Let's stay on the topic of Green Bay then. Reports just in this week, Jordy Nelson tears his ACL. He's out for the year in a non-contact injury. How does that affect Green Bay? How does that affect the division, just even the whole NFL picture in general?
Sure. I mean, it affects them. You don't just lose an all-pro wide receiver and not feel it.
Yep.
However, if there is a team equipped to handle such a large blow, it is them. I mean, they probably have the best wide receiver depth in the entire league with Randall Cobb. Devontae Adams is only 22 years old.
He's looked phenomenal this preseason, by the way.
Yeah, and they also have, Ty Montgomery has shown flashes. It seems like they always add another guy to the mix. I can't say they're still not the favorite in the NFC North. They have Aaron Rodgers. They have the best weapon in the game. And they have a consistent coaching staff. It hurts them, but I don't think it completely alters their trajectory beyond, being a contender.
Let's go over to the AFC. We have New England. Tom Brady suspended first 4 games so far this season.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see this going? Do you see, if he is out these first 4 games, if it ever does get resolved, which it has to, obviously?
I would guess that he's going to. The suspension is probably going to be upheld at least partially, so that's my prediction.
So, what do you think Garoppolo can do for these first 4 games of the year? So, they're against your beloved Steelers. They start off the season. They then go to Buffalo. They're at home against Jacksonville, and then they go to Dallas for Week 4. Week 1 is prime time too against the Steelers. Do you think Jimmy Garoppolo is a guy who can put that team out, especially against? What do you think?
From what I've seen with Garoppolo, I'm not overtly impressed, but this is the Patriots we're talking about. They always figure out a way. They're the best game planners in football. So what I expect from them is going to be sound fundamental football, mistake-free, no penalties, and they're gonna game plan around this giant void of not having Brady. So I realistically think they could be 2-2 in this stretch, which is exactly what they were last year when they got blown out by the Chiefs
at home. Garoppolo. Many people wanted Garoppolo to get the call then,
right? And I don't think anyone's going to walk away being like, "Oh wow, Jimmy Garoppolo is the stud quarterback," but I don't think it's going to matter. I'd love to be wrong though. Let's start 0-4 New England.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Let's do it. How about what do you see in the AFC North? We have your beloved Steelers, like I said, the Bengals, Ravens, even the Browns. Where do you see that division going? Who do you see coming out? Do you see even another wild card team coming out of that division?
I absolutely see 2 playoff teams out of this division. Now, which 2 they will be, that's really the question of the season for them. I will write off the Browns because I think their quarterback situation is a giant
Still
mess.
Still far-fetched.
Yeah, so I don't think they're going to be a factor this year. But between Cincy, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh, they all have their pluses and minuses. I mean, Pittsburgh had the best offense in football last year. They've got some elite playmakers.
But let's talk about that. They're missing them, a couple of them, for the first couple games.
Yes, unfortunately, Marquise Pouncey, all-pro center, out for most or all of the season. Martavis Bryant today recently suspended for 4 games. Le'Veon Bell already suspended for the first 2 games. So they're going to be in a hole early in terms of personnel.
They have their hands full, that's for sure.
Yeah, but they've got a great scheme, and they still have Ben Roethlisberger. So their first 4 games at New England, San Fran, at St. Louis, and then Baltimore. So, again, I could see them being 2-2, maybe 3-1 if they squeeze out that Baltimore game, and still being right in it. But it's going to be a great battle to watch between all 3 of those teams. And obviously, I'm biased, so I'm going to take Pittsburgh to win the division.
Let's do it.
And
you heard it here first.
Baltimore will be very close, maybe win the division as well.
So, AFC, just real quick before we go to the NFC, who's your Super Bowl? Who you got coming out?
Tough to say. It's pretty open.
It is open. Give me a preseason Tommy Doherty prediction.
I think right now the team with the most momentum going for it is the Indianapolis Colts.
I do too.
They've got the best player in football at the quarterback position, not named J.J. Watt, of course, who also plays in that division. Andrew Luck is an absolute freak. He could be in for an MVP year. They've been going farther in the playoffs each year he's been on the team. They loaded up with free agents. They seem ready for a run. I also think their division's not very challenging, so they could have an easier schedule. So I'll take them, but it could be a number of teams.
You said it. Like you said, though, Tennessee, Houston, and Jacksonville aren't the 3 toughest teams that you need to play compared to if you go to the AFC West. You got the Broncos, Chiefs, and Chargers.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I'm still far-fetched. I was kind of curious to see where you were going. I was even leaning towards the Colts were up there, but I like your Steelers. Your Steelers is actually my team to pick to come out. I think Big Ben has one more Super Bowl run in him. The way Martavis Bryant has looked, not just Martavis, all the receivers. We know what Antonio Brown has done. I even think Wheaton can do something this year.
Yes, they are loaded on offense. There's no question. If they're going to make a run, they need to make some big leaps on defense with guys like Ryan Shazier, Cameron Hayward, who's already an established player. But the young guys really got to step up for that to happen. But hey, I would love for that to be right, Mike. Let's just make sure that happens for sure.
Yeah, we'll do that. So let's go to the NFC then. Who do you give me your top 4 teams? Let me guess here. You're going to have Green Bay. Are you sticking with your Dallas Cowboys? I know you've always been a big Dark Horse fan of them.
I do like the Cowboys, not as much this year, though.
What about, is an NFC South team going to go under 500 and make the playoffs again this year?
I will say that does not happen again. That was quite entertaining, though.
It was.
We don't need to see another 6-9-1 team make the playoffs. No, in terms of top teams in the NFC, it's the usual suspects. It's Seattle, it's Green Bay, to a lesser extent Philadelphia and Dallas. I think a team to look out for if you're looking for a sleeper in the NFC is the Minnesota Vikings.
Really?
This is a team that is loaded with young talent. I'm a big fan of Teddy Bridgewater. I think he's...
What did he do the last 4 games of the year? He was second in the NFL for QBR.
He was, yeah. He really was just making sharp decisions. If you look at his numbers on the year, almost 3,000 yards passing, but his completion percentage towards the last 4 weeks of the year was near 70%, which would be for a full season at the top of the league.
Oh, of course.
He gets AP back this year. Adrian Peterson, one of the elite running backs.
Where do you see his outlook for this season? Is he the player that he always was, and can he still be that player? Is he the MVP player who can take the Minnesota Vikings to a Super Bowl?
I'm not going to say that they're going to a Super Bowl this year, but I still think that he has 3 really good years left in him. He's only 30, and he tore his knee up and then came back and almost broke the NFL single-season rushing record. So I'm not going to doubt that man for 1 second. He's one of the great running backs of any era. So we'll see, but just keep an eye out for them as maybe a dark horse playoff team, and they're loaded with young talent on both sides of the ball.
Right. Well, there you have it with Tommy Doherty, the Bears, and NFL predictions. Let's go into college football while we're on that subject.
Man, college, wasn't that a great time?
I'm still in college.
And I wish I was.
I know you do.
Kids, stay in college as long as you can.
It works out for me so far. Let's talk about my Notre Dame here real quick. They're 11th to start off the preseason. That's a shame outside of the top 10. I believe they're very deserving of that top 10. They're starting their season off against Charlie Strong's Texas. They do have quite some teams they're playing this year that are pretty hard. They have Texas at home. They got Georgia Tech at home. They got to go away to play Clemson, Stanford, and then they have number 8 USC at home as well. So as far as their schedule goes, it's very tough if they want to make this 14 playoff. I think they're very capable of doing it. They got Chris Brown coming back, who I think is going to be due for a big, big year, depending on the play of Malik Zaire, who I believe in as well. But then you look at another X factor. This is an X factor for Notre Dame football for the year. It's Terrion Folston, their running back. This is a guy who averaged 5.1 yards per game last year, or 5.1 yards per carry last year per game. So he's very, very capable of running the ball. If you're averaging over 5 yards per carry, that's quite impressive to do on the season. He can have a big year depending on how well they want to use him, if they're going to use him to his advantage. But he's a guy who I really can think even maybe sneak in for a Heisman candidate position, depending on how well Malik Zaire can get him involved. And then the defense is their backbone. We got guys like Joe Schmidt and Jalen Smith, say that twice as fast, both at linebacker, who are just two monsters. When Joe Schmidt went down last year at the end of the season, it really screwed him up bad. He's a huge X factor, a difference maker. Him and Jalen just have a great connection together. So is it capable that Notre Dame can be in the playoff picture this year? Easily. They've done it before. They did it 2 years ago with a very hard schedule. There's obviously going to Clemson's going to be a big deal, and even USC at home. We'll see how it works. So that's what I got on Notre Dame. I can see them finishing. They'll be a top 10 team for sure when the season ends. Whether they'll be in the playoff, they're going to be one of those few teams on the bubble. But 11, I do not think was a deserving number for them.
Wow, that's a lot of praise for Notre Dame there, Michael.
I gotta stay with my blue and gold.
Yeah, I mean you're a little more well versed on the team than I am. I guess I just have a question for you. I know ND fans are fairly restless. What's the feeling on Brian Kelly? Last 2 years, a combined record of 17-9. So
when we brought Brian Kelly in, that's when we got rid of big Charlie Weiss. And Charlie Weiss is my hero. Charlie Weiss is what brought Notre Dame into a whole other level for me. So when we got Charlie Weiss, got rid of him, I was really heartbroken. And then when we brought Brian Kelly in from Cincinnati, I was very, very optimistic because I didn't want Weiss to go. So I never really gave him the benefit of the doubt at first, but the man's a winner. Wherever he's been, he's turned that program into a winning team. Where he was at Cincinnati, and I forgot what mag school he was at before.
Central Michigan. 98-42 career record. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's tremendous. So he's always found success on where he's been, especially at Notre Dame. It is one of the hardest schools, if not the hardest school, to recruit at, with what the academic board keeps their athletes at for their GPA and so on. So he's done a great job year after year at bringing in these top-name guys, and he brought us to our first national title in, 18 years or something like that. So he's the right guy for the job. He's got my full respect. I can't praise him enough.
I guess I'm with you. Yeah, I'm an anti-Notre Dame guy, but they continue to last very, very long in these polls, especially the preseason ones. So I think in general, if they do run the table with their schedule, or maybe even go 11-1, that might be enough for them. But Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be easy, that's for sure.
Correct. What are you, as far as just an outlook for college football, what are you thinking of these teams like Ohio State, Alabama, TCU? Are these all three teams that you see in the college football hands down? Where do you see this picture going?
Here's an interesting stat for you, Mike.
Okay.
Did you know that this is the first year that an SEC team has not ranked in the top 2 in the preseason since 2003?
I did not know that.
Yeah. I feel that the run of SEC dominance, in terms of them being so much better than other conferences, that they might literally play each other in the national championship game, I don't know if that's going to happen this year or maybe anymore. Let's break it down. Ohio State, clearly the best team in the country right now. Deepest team. I've never seen a quarterback situation that even
I wish we had that problem. That's a problem you want to be blessed upon.
The Buffalo Bills would trade all 3 of their quarterbacks for all 3 of the athletes at Ohio State. And no disrespect to the families of Tyrod Taylor, Matt Castle, but disrespect to the E.J. Manuel family.
Yeah.
Come on, E.J.
What you doing?
But I digress. Yeah, Ohio State is obviously off the charts good. TCU, they might have the best college offense I've ever seen.
Unreal.
Trevon Boykin, converted wide receiver, wasn't even sure if he was going to be the quarterback last season, and now he's probably going to have the all-time TCU passing record by the time this one's done. So,
wow,
big fan of him. In general, I think this is a front-loaded college football year where the top teams, there's about 6 or 7 teams that are really, really good, and then kind of a drop-off after that with like some good teams, but maybe not quite on the elite level. I guess I'm placing Notre Dame in that category, but it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think people, especially in this area, who are kind of tired of the narrative that the SEC is going to just run through everybody, I don't think that is the case anymore.
Yeah, I think so too. The SEC era, I believe, is over as far as their dominance. Multiple dominance teams, like you said, where it gets to the fact where they play each other in the national title game.
I mean, and I'm relatively speaking because Alabama is ranked number 3 and Auburn's number 6 right now, and Georgia's number 9. So they're still the best conference in the country. I'm not debating that, but I think we're starting to catch up. I mean, the Pac-12 is great, and the Big 12 obviously has 2 of the best teams with TCU and Baylor.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about real quick with the college football picture. First of all, how well did the college football playoff work out for the very first year as it did last year?
I thought it couldn't have worked out better, to be honest with you.
Couldn't have.
It was fantastic. I mean, you had not only 4 really good teams, you had a lot of great storylines. The games were really competitive, and in general, it was so much fun.
I loved it.
I loved every minute of it.
Well, the fact, too, where you have a team that beats the number 1 team and the number 2 team to win it all shows the fact why we do need this college football playoff.
Right. And, I mean, as much as people don't like Ohio State, they have really opened doors up for other teams to make the case for, a late season run like that. Because before they played Wisconsin in the Big Ten game, everybody was like, well, this team's a joke. There's no way they can be in the playoff. And then they absolutely obliterate Ohio State, 59-0, with their third-string quarterback. And it's like, wow, maybe they deserve a spot.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they go on to do what they did. And then, of course, you had on the other side, Oregon and Alabama, the 2 top picks in the NFL draft going head-to-head.
Right.
Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston, polar opposite personalities, but that was great too. So I'm really looking forward to that. Whatever it ends up being, I'm sure it's going to be fantastic.
Right. It shows why it needs to be in place. Can you see it being extended to even 8 teams? Is that still down the road? Is it still
I know
too far-fetched?
Contractually they're with this for the next 8 years. So I think maybe in the future I would be open for 8 teams, but I also like 4. I mean,
4 is a good number, especially when it comes to football. You can't.
Yeah, and also I like the setup where it is, the semifinals are on New Year's Day, and then a week later you have the championship game. That works out kind of nicely. But
yeah, it does.
If it gets to the point where we think that there are 8 legitimate teams that deserve a chance, then of course I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what we have for football. The best time of the year is right around the corner. College football and the National Football League is set to kick off here very soon.
Oh, one thing, shout out to the Missouri Tigers, the 2-time SEC East champions. And no, don't look at our non-conference schedule, all right? Just look at those 2 division titles.
Acknowledge them.
Yes.
Acknowledge Michael Sam. Anyways, that was too far. So, with football coming to a rise here, that means baseball is coming to an end. The sun is setting down. Let's talk here about our 2 teams that we have here in Chicago. My Chicago Cubs and your Chicago White Sox. I think we can tell who's got the worst end of the stick for this one.
Oh, it's very clear. Although we did win the BP Cup. Congratulations to the White Sox.
Yeah, there you go. So the Cubs right now are 20 games above 500 at 73-53. The White Sox are 7 games below 500 at 59 for 66. 18 games out of first place, last place in the division as of today for the very first time. The Cubs have the 4th best record in the MLB, but yet they are still 3rd in this division, in their division. Tommy, how good is the Cubs division with St. Louis and Pittsburgh in it?
Wow, let me tell you, it's pretty good division. Hey, where was that A there? Yeah, it's a great division, and Cubs fever, I can confirm, is officially back. I was there at the game last Friday. Being a non-fan, I was just kind of soaking in the atmosphere, and the excitement is palpable. There's a lot to look forward to with this team. And it seems to have really coalesced this year. I don't know if it's going to translate into a World Series, but they've already made a ton of progress this year, probably more than people were expecting.
Right. Well, if you were to tell me they'd be 20 games over 500 right now, I would have said you're crazy, at least for this year. After the All-Star break, the real difference is what happened after they were swept by the Phillies after the All-Star break. When the Phillies swept them, and only put their record 5 games over 400, or 5 games over 500, at 51-46. And then, as a Cubs fan, you're thinking, here we go. This is where it starts. This is our breakdown. This is our curse. Maybe this year, next year's our year. We're going to go back to our old slogan. Not this is our year, but next year's our year. But after they go 51-46, they go 22-7 since then with their loss today to San Francisco. It's been unreal, just by everybody. They've had too many streaks now, and first, just Schwarber was hot. Kyle Schwarber, he's batting .273 the year. He's got 12 home runs, and he only has been up since the All-Star break. It's unreal. Just even the play who got snubbed by Jake Arrieta, All-Star snub. He was the first pitcher in the MLB to 15 wins. He's now 16-6 with a 2.2 ERA. In my opinion, he's in first place for the National League Cy Young Award winner. You got to look at Chris Bryant, who people aren't saying he's second, still behind San Francisco's. I can't think of his name in Rookie of the Year, but still. If your third baseman, who's a rookie, who you have high expectation, already has 20 home runs, 77 RBIs, and is batting .265, you got to tip your hat off to the guy, and you got to be happy with it. Then Rizzo, 25 home runs, 77 RBIs, and .287. I really like just not only has his great play continued, we knew that was going to come, but just his leadership that he's taking into that role and becoming a leader for this ball club has been really tremendous and amazing to watch. I like him yelling back at all the guys. He's really the first guy out there to chirp his mouth, and he should be when you are a veteran player now as he is, and an all-star as well. So, do I see the Cubs in the World Series? Maybe. It's just unbelievable, though, that the first round of the division or the first round of the playoffs, we're either going to have to play Pittsburgh or St. Louis. It's going to be there won't be 2 National League Central Division teams playing for the pennant in the National League, which it should be if 3 of them have the 3 best records in the National League. So it'll be interesting to how it pans out for the rest of the season. But I love how the Cubs are playing. I can't say anything bad about them. John Madden has just done an amazing job with this team.
Oh, you mean Joe Madden?
Joe Madden, thank you.
John Madden might have had an effect. I don't know.
He probably did, yeah. But Joe Madden has done a great job with this team. He really has been. It's just been magical to watch. Even we know he's been benched, but Castro these last 3 games at San Francisco with Addison Russell having a baby, congrats. He's done amazing. He was the best player of the series, at least hitting for them. But the rest of this whole ball club is so complete, as I touched on. You have Addison Russell at short, Chris Bryant at third base. Let's say you put Starlin Castro at second. Montero's been one of the hottest bats in our lineup right now at catcher. We know Rizzo's at first. You then got Fowler in center, who's been one of the best leadoff hitters in the league. He's almost got 20 home runs, and he's your leadoff man. You then got Schwarber in left and Coughlin in right field. Between those 8 batters right there, that's you're solid 1 through 9. I would say 1 through 8, but with Joe Madden, geez.
I mean, at this point, John Madden might as well just join the coaching
He might as well.
How great would that be? Just him sitting on the bench like, well, when you hit the baseball.
The baseball goes off the bat.
It's gonna travel across the field.
So when the pitcher throws the ball and the batter hits it, that means the ball's in play.
Oh God, let's make it happen. I'm sorry, Mike. Finish your story about the Cubs.
But what I'm getting at is the Cubs definitely, like Back to the Future said, have a chance to win the World Series this year. It is capable. They do, like I said, have to go through 2 hard teams in Pittsburgh and St. Louis, but they can get it done. I'm a firm believer. If they do get it done, I feel like that is going to give them the edge they need in the playoffs for a smooth sailing to take us to the World Series, to say the least. But that's better than what your White Sox, I can say.
Meanwhile, on the other side of town.
On the dark side.
Let's talk about the White Sox, Mike. I've had the mostly displeasure of going to 8 White Sox games this year.
How many of them have been rained out?
Just 2. The first 2 got rained out.
Okay.
We ended up going to the first one. They rescheduled to a different day. And then we tried to refund our tickets for the second one. And we had an unpleasurable experience doing that. So it didn't rain. It actually was obscenely hot the other times, about 96-degree days. But I digress. Let's talk about what actually happened on the field, which is not a whole lot. There were some fairly high expectations for them. Not quite the level of the Cubs. But, they made a lot of bold moves in the offseason, signing Melky Cabrera, bringing in Jeff Samardzija,
right.
David Robertson, who's actually been one of the few guys that worked out for us. But what the problem is with them is they have the opposite situation of the Cubs, where they have almost no young talent that's on the rise. Their 2 best players, Chris Sale, who is probably going to win the Cy Young this year, and Jose Abreu, that's really their core, right?
That's it.
But the problem with that is Sale only plays once every 5 days, is absolutely lights out, but we can't give him enough run support for him to have a better record. I mean, right now, his ERA is at 3. He's at 3.20, and he only has 12 wins, which
is shocking.
He has 229 strikeouts. That's ridiculous.
That's stupid.
And there's not more than 1 or 2 pitchers you would take before him if you were starting a team. So
no,
I feel like we're wasting the best years of his career with bad teams. And that falls on management, that falls on David Hahn, and it definitely falls on Robin Ventura, who I'm absolutely not a fan of. So, things aren't looking so good. We need a full rebuild, and I just don't know if Jerry Reinsdorf has it in him. He's 78 years old. This offseason, from what I've read, was sort of directed by him because now he's trying to see another World Series title before he passes away. But I don't think we're set up to compete. Certainly not next year, maybe not the year after that. But we can't waste these years of Chris Sale because he truly is a magnificent player.
He is. He really is. There was a video that went viral last week on social media, ESPN, Bleacher Report, everyone was posting it, and there was an umpire who was wearing a GoPro when Chris Sale was pitching, warming up before the game, and it said the title of the video was "Facing Chris Sale" or "Chris Sale pitching to you is your worst nightmare." And I clicked the video, and I can really see why, because the movement and speed this man has on the ball is truly unreal, and I can see why he has so many strikeouts as he does.
Yeah, and I was at the game 2 weeks ago when he struck out 15 against the Cubs.
Yeah.
By far the best experience I've had at the park this year, and I've never seen anything like it. I mean, at one point, one of the Cubs players literally fell to the ground swinging a slider. So, yeah, I mean, I feel bad for the guy. He's absolutely lights out. But if you want to just go up and down our roster, I mean, Alexi Ramirez is 33, and that's a Cuban 33. So we don't know how old really that is.
Yeah.
I'm kidding, of course, but he hasn't had a great year, batting .238. Adam Eaton, whom we thought was our leadoff hitter of the future, really has not lived up to expectations.
He is a guy, though, who I would still want on my team.
He's a grinder. I don't dislike him that much, but for what we just paid him in the offseason, I'm not sure it worked out the way we thought. Certainly Melky Cabrera didn't work out to the full extent that we were hoping he would. And
Adam LaRoche.
Adam LaRoche, who admitted himself, did you see this? Adam LaRoche literally said that he would have benched himself 2 months earlier than Robin Ventura did. So that just kind of goes back to my point about Ventura. I don't think he's the right fit to lead this team. And I also don't think that the management of the White Sox is going to get rid of him. So
he can take a punch, though.
Yes, he can.
He can.
Robin Ventura, I like him as a man, good man, not such a great manager.
Mm-hmm. Well, as far as everything else, that's pretty much all we had for Winnie Sports Podcast today. Tom, you think it's going to be another 8 months till we're on this mic again?
I certainly hope not. And if there's any newly pregnant women, stay tuned, I guess.
Yeah, stay tuned. Let us know if you had a boy or a girl.
Mike, by the way, Mike, thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
And if there are any sponsors out there that would like to sponsor the Windy City Sports Podcast, we would love to read some of your ad copy.
Please let us know. Tune in. Email us to windycitysportspodcast@gmail.com. But again, Tommy, great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
Windy City Sports Podcast, Mike Hansen, Tommy Doherty. Bye-bye.